So over to Ken. You kind of started to touch on this, but can you go into some more detail from a logistical and a supply chain point of view, how these prefab components and panels can really be a game changer for a builder?
Supply chain management is about control. Let's get control of cost. Let's get control of materials so that you have adequate availability, but not too much in the batch because that inventory is expensive. So you want the minimum amount of inventory to supply an adequate flow of construction. To reduce waste as part of the reducing cost, and that you have visibility from start to finish of the products. Now, in our industry, our subcontractors don't want us to have that visibility. It's hidden from us, and they'll do a lot to block us. And there are some builders who buy their own lumber packs and hire framers to install. But for the most part, builders are doing a lot of turnkey, and they lose visibility to what's going on. So wall panels, collaboration with manufacturers of wall panels gives us more control over the process. So number one is control. Supply chain managers love control. We don't really have control, but we think we do, and it makes us feel great. 25 years ago, I was asking manufacturers, I was demanding that they make things that are easier to install. Well, that's no longer the need in our industry. We need them to make products that are difficult to install incorrectly. We've got to have them make products that are difficult to install incorrectly. And that's what our wall panel manufacturers do very, very well. So quality certainly goes up. And think about cycle time. Cycle time is an important thing in the construction process. You know how long it takes to manufacture a Lexus car? 5 hours. It takes them 5 hours to make a Lexus car. It took them 3 to 5 years to plan for that before the first car started its way on the assembly line. But once they got that planning completed, they now can make that car in 5 hours. Well, they don't actually build the car from the ground up. And I hear a lot of excuses for quality issues in our homes as, well, our houses are not made in factories. Well, could they be? And that Lexus car that goes down the assembly line is that an assembly of pre-manufactured components. And those components are just assembled together. So in the house, I told you, about the house that was the shell completely built, including windows and house wrap in 12 hours. That's nothing. So in the Building Industry Association, BIA of San Diego, in the 1990s, we built a house in 4 hours. You can see the video online, the 4-hour house. So I encourage everyone to look it up. So we built a house, foundation to handing the keys over to the home buyer. We had an agreement with the building departments. We had building inspectors on site. It took thousands of people with staging material, very meticulously. People like this ready, the next trade contractor to go in, waiting to go in. So it's not realistic. We could do that and repeat that over and over again. But we built a house in 4 hours, from foundation to roof to handing the keys over to the home buyer. 4 hours. So if we look at cycle time and think, can we bring a 100-day schedule to 95? Oh my gosh, how are we ever going to take 5 days off the schedule? Is a ridiculous conversation, because the opportunities for improvement in our industry are huge, and the prefabricated area of that, I think, is a key component. And I don't know how we're going to do without it. And I talked about the labor force, and I tell you, I'm really worried about it. It does keep me up at night. It is not getting better. And for the long time, we've been able to rely on low-cost labor from other countries coming over to do that for us, and that is waning. So,
not in Texas.
I'm worried about it. Well, Texas, we have a steady flow right now. They're not all jumping onto our job sites. They're going to hotels.
Yeah, we're getting them in factories. I have relationships in Texas, so the labor is tough. But Florida and Texas have always been the best, lowest labor rates for construction in the industry, and that has dramatically changed over the last 5 years. You can't frame today in Texas for under $9, right? Just labor. It used to be $3. It's triple what it is today. So used to be able to build a hotel in 9 months in Texas. Today it's 18 months. And it's not the supply chain. That's not it. So it's people.
For those that are using the Vantum system, how has that changed? From 18 months, how quickly are they able to do a hotel?
Well, in the United States, our mission is to do volumetric, 6-sided boxes. We know from our experience that the more bang for the buck when we get to design the boxes and get all the finishes inside the boxes. That's appliances, the showers, the glass doors, the uppers, the lowers, really everything inside the corridor door. When you go into the room, it's complete.
You're going to see a picture of this tomorrow where you've got a crane taking this box, and you can see through the window, it's furnished. It's got everything in there, just literally.
Yeah, one of the cool things about that particular system, when we use the Vantum solution, we're able to get a lot more glass openings. When you look at the end of this box, the whole end wall is glass, the whole end. In the wood world, that'd be a 12-inch thick wall, and we're only going to get, probably a couple 28/48s in that end wall because of the structural loading. But with the Vantum, we can glass the whole thing, and you'll see that in the next meeting.
And I have a lot of experience with that. So a lot of the consulting I do is in Japan. So I go to Japan 5 or 6 times a year and work with the home builders there. And home builders, for example, on a bathroom, they don't build a bathroom the way we do. It's built offsite in a factory. Right. That's 6 sides with plumbing, electrical, all the finishings, all the tile, completely 100% finished. And then they crane it into place. Done. Bathroom complete. And so, prefabricated components, I think, is definitely where we have to go.
So we're definitely getting into what are some of the benefits of the prefab and kind of touching on some of those points. I know Jason's got a couple slides here. Let's talk about the cost savings. And where do those cost savings come in once you're to speed? Because clearly you can see there's a little bit of an experience curve. Yeah. There's going to be a little bit of learning. But once you're there, where do those cost savings manifest themselves?
Time, right? Time is money, right? On a large project we just did in South St. Paul, Minneapolis, that particular volumetric project saved about $2.3 million in just interest alone on the carry of being able to complete that project very quick. And that was developed by a big developer called Opus in the Minneapolis market. It'll win an award this year at World of Modular. Has a vertical parking lot inside of the apartment complex as well. It's really unique. It's called Avera. And so you're going to save on time interest, and then you're going to save on cost as well. We do 2 things in the volumetric world. We control time and we control cost. And how do we do that? We order all our supplies day one. We don't build the first box with every single piece of material in the factory because we can't. It would be like using the car analogy, building your car without windows, or what Ford experienced in the pandemic, building a bunch of F-150s without computer chips and then parking them in a field. Well, the cost of that doing twice goes against everything we do. So we control time and we control cost. The cost is by us ordering everything day one. There are no change orders. So we control the time and we control the cost. When we have great supply chain, OEM contracts with suppliers and vendors, and we're buying the rinse and repeat type of mentality because we do teach proliferation of SKUs as Lucifer in a factory. We're not building one-offs. It'd be like any manufacturing of any widget out there, and you throw something new in it every single time, never being the same, which is what traditionally most of the modular builders you may have come across out there do, right? That's why there's no scale or velocity. Velocity is key in driving down price. So we do those 2 things.
Okay, so cost, speed, what would you want to add? Or expand on either of those?
Well, I guess it depends on the business model. We're not that volume type business model. We're doing less, and unfortunately there are change orders in the industry that we're in. But in terms of cost, sometimes it can cost the same, but then there's bang for the buck. It's what you're getting for the same price. So when we get asked to compare our system with traditional stick frame, particularly stick frame, conventionally framed buildings, I don't know if there's necessarily a cost savings, but there's definitely a bang for the buck in terms of energy efficiency, in terms of speed. The material, sometimes the material cost can be slightly more, but then on the labor side, you're offsetting.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that if we're talking about, if I look at a wall for a house and what I'm going to spend on just the materials for that wall, you're saying the cost may be a little bit more. But when we look at the total cost of building, that wall, when you add all the labor with those materials versus your solution and how quickly you can then stand those up, the combination of those two things together, the cost is less, correct?
Well, it can be less or equal to or less, but again, with better bang for the buck in terms of you still are completing that house sooner than you normally would. So there's got to be some value to that. The energy efficiency, the air tightness of that. And we keep talking about prefabricated wall panels here, but I should say that we don't do just prefabricated wall panels. We do complete prefabricated building envelopes, so including roof panels. So they're, depending on the design of the house, where you're eliminating trusses, you're replacing trusses with a vaulted ceiling, there could be rafters and beams. And so sometimes the price, it's not always a matter of the price always going down. It can stay the same, but again, what you're getting for that same dollar. So that's what I would say.
And I think I can't remember who mentioned it before, is that if you're using the same labor to set up the walls, you're paying more than you need to, because the experience needed to be able to assemble these modules doesn't require that much of experienced labor, and you should be able to harness some savings. Now you got to figure out how you're going to do that with your team.
And that is one of the obstacles that we find when we're dealing with the builders directly, or even homeowners who are asking their builder for an estimate to build their house with the prefabricated panels. A lot of the builders don't have a baseline to go on, so they basically look at it as just what they would do. It's a 3,000 square foot house, so it costs this much. And we see that with the framers particularly, and also the electricians, and that's a whole other conversation. But that is where the builders, once they've dipped their toe in and hopefully decided that they're going to try again, and they're going to put a team together that's competent and can refine as they go, over time, and not a long time either. The learning curve is fairly short. But once you have that right team in place, then you do have a better potential for actually saving some money. So the one-off might not save you. You're going to get better bang for the buck. You might not save much. But if you continue to do it, and especially for small developers who have just a few designs that they're doing over and over, in that type of situation, that's where you can really find the savings.
Okay. Well, now you brought up something that I don't think we've touched on, and there may be some questions out in the audience. Okay, let's talk about plumbing and electrical. If we've got these walls that are that have foam or some other type of core in them, how are we doing electrical and plumbing? So who wants to explain
I'll
that?
start out. I mean, it's real simple. We don't put plumbing in the exterior walls. We'll do a plumb wall inside to drop things down through a framed wall. On the exterior, we have cores, and I'm sure most SIPs will have a cord out in the EPS for your wires to come down from the top of the roof down into the walls and then out. But we typically don't plumbing in exterior walls in any market.
Which I think it leads to, you have to design from the beginning that you're doing this. You can't plan on just taking.
This is SIPs is a programmatic design. You know, when you look at it, each panel is labeled and marked. So you're following the grid, you're following a system, putting a puzzle together is really what you're doing. And I would think that, you know, on the job sites, you need one good seasoned project manager that knows what they're doing. The rest of the labor can be unskilled. Until you start getting in, if you're not doing volumetric, then you got to bring in your skilled trades for your plumbers, your electricians, et cetera. But one PM should be able to manage putting these things together once they understand what they're looking at and how it goes together. What happens when you get into buying and that wall's not seating properly? What do you do, right? There's certain things you can do to kind of help that process go a little quicker when you're dealing with wood SIPs, which is why I don't like wood. Burns and termites, et cetera. For the guy in Florida, you know, you got to build in concrete. So termites, unless you use a Vantum-style solution where you can get down into the dirt and it won't mold and it won't hurt.
So I like the idea that was brought up before of reaching out to others in your market or perhaps other markets that are already starting to use this and asking, hey, can we come see? I think what you'll find based on, I know I've got a smaller little experience set here, but those that are using this are passionate about how transformative this is and are very open to sharing. You're going to hear from Ted this afternoon at lunch, who's a builder in this area who's been doing this for 21 years. And he's super excited about coming in and sharing it with others. I think those that are doing this because it benefits the industry, it benefits our communities, it benefits the world when we start talking about the carbon footprint, is that this is, I think an analogy would be like Elon Musk with Tesla, is that he's like, I want everyone to do electric. I'm just showing this is the way to do it because it's going to benefit all of us the sooner that we can start transforming over to this paradigm.
I've never had an electricity bill ever go down in my life. I'm 50, so I've never had the energy company call me, hey, Mr. Carter, we're low in your kilowatts per hour. It just doesn't happen. This is a great chart that we did, and we modeled it in a South Carolina, Georgia region. So it's a mid-climate region. It's not extremely hot. It's not extremely cold. We've tested and put our product all over the world, from the Atacama Desert, which hasn't rained in 300 years. Average temperatures 122 degrees daily. We've put the only one that I know of that's put a home in the South Pole, and it's still there. We did the Straits of Magellan Well Observatory. We've done universities, we've done schools, 111 schools in South America, with 49 charter schools more on the contract now. So we can build a lot of different things with the solution and with the envelope. So energy is really important, though. What does it cost to heat and cool that home on a daily basis? Look what interest rates have done to, you guys are all small builders. Any big major builders in here building over 500 homes a year? So if you're not doing that, right, the smaller homes, you're less velocity. Interest rates affect your build and your deals, and so having a low energy consuming house helps your utility bills be next to nothing. I've got clients that get money back from the grid in the local power group, depending on where you're at in the country, because it's driven by states, and then some that don't pay anything or pay $10 a month for their utilities, which is a savings. I spend $500 a month in Minneapolis I have an old house. Can't build energy back out of that thing. There's nothing I can do. Just got to build new with the right system.
And we'll talk about it this afternoon as well when we look at the habitat build that we've done in our community in Manhattan, Kansas. It's a small home. It's a workforce housing home, 1,200 square feet. But with this type of envelope, the number of solar panels that we put on the top is less than what you would expect, but it's a net zero home. And when we bring developers in our area to see this home, and we tell them the cost, what it costs to build, even factoring in the real hourly cost for labor, even though Habitat has a lot of volunteers, the cost of the materials, and then look at the ongoing total cost of ownership, they're like, that can't be true. And I'm like, here it is. And so to be able to build houses like that at the cost, and I don't want to reveal the cost till this afternoon at lunch, but it is hard to believe, but it can be done.